Hello, everybody. Welcome to Most Wanted Topics. I'm your host, Kevin Dennis. Along with me, per usual, is, of course, Atomic Tommy. Atomic Tommy, how you doing today?
Good as always.
Man, we are going to have some fun this week. We are officially announcing right now that mark your calendars, boys and girls, wrestling fans of all ages. Make sure you mark your calendars. July 27th, the Honky Tonk Man will be here in Minnesota at Most Wanted Comics, 10:30 to 2:30. Make sure the details will be coming soon on the website, mostwantedcomics.com. But it is confirmed. The Honky Tonk Man will be coming to Most Wanted Comics Saturday, July 27th. Mark your calendars to Bloomington, Minnesota. And I tell you what, we are excited to have another quality guest visiting Most Wanted Comics. This place is hopping.
Another very cool wrestler.
Legendary.
Legendary wrestler. Hall of Famer. We love wrestling. We know our fans, our customers love wrestling, and we love to provide the wrestling experiences for you all. If you enjoyed Jimmy Hart, get back here for another amazing wrestler.
Another great life experience to have at Most Wanted Comics. You meet cool people, you meet cool friends, and it's a welcoming place. Everyone is welcome, and we have fun here at Most Wanted Comics. I tell you what, we got a lot to talk about today, so we're going to dive right in. We got a cool interview with our friend Jimmy the Souser. He's going to be coming in shortly to talk to you about some comics, so we're going to dive into that. And we gotta take a shout out, of course, to JD and Matt, and of course to Logan, to Scott and the boys. We got to say hi to Tanya and Sonia. We got to say hi to Amy. We got to say hi to Mark. We got to say hi to another Scott. We got to say hi to Richard. Boy, I tell you what, we have a shout out to a lot of people, and thank you. If you like what you see on a weekly basis, please make sure you hit that like button and make sure you subscribe, and also go ahead and give us some comments and your feedback. We welcome it. Anyway, we're going to get into it here. We're going to dive right in. Jimmy the Souser's on his way in right now, so I'm going to get out of the way so you two can talk comics, and then we'll dive in after that. So we'll be right back, everybody, with the Souser.
Joining me now for a very special edition of Tommy's Top Titles, good friend, Jimmy the Souser. Let's go, Jimmy the Souser.
Hey, thank you, Tommy.
Yeah, I think, the highlight of the week was absolutely Hellverine #1, and we're going to talk about that, but also... as much as it may not feel like it, it has been 6 months since Ultimate Spider-Man #1 came out. And I feel like we should do some sort of a recap, a little where are we now kind of a thing in the Ultimates, because, much to my surprise, it's kind of a big deal, and it was a big deal.
Yeah.
So I guess let's start with Hellverine. Let's get sort of the highlight of the week out of the way before we talk about Ultimates. I'll let you go first on your take on Hellverine.
Ben Percy, thank you. Oh my God, this was so much fun. The other book we're going to talk about too will be Ultimate Spider-Man. I put it down. I just didn't finish it, not because I didn't like it. It was just I just didn't have time, and this was so much fun. This sucked out all the fun for the night. Because it was just one hell of a read. So much fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the other things to commend about it too is really how it, it's nothing terribly new or really anything terribly super different, but it still manages to feel separate from Ghost Rider. Like if Ghost Rider fans are absolutely going to love this book, but if you really take Ghost Rider and Hellverine as characters, they don't feel like carbon copies, and you get that in this book. You feel like there's just something different, and I think that really comes through in how Percy writes the book and sort of the techniques he uses, but we can get a little bit more into that.
Well, they slowly have been putting Wolverine into some of the Marvel horror comics.
Yeah.
A few years ago, they did Midnight Suns, which was a fun read. And then they had the Vengeance storyline that was in Ghost Rider crossover with Wolverine, where we get the introduction of Hellverine. And that was a lot of fun. But this is a continuation of that story. Something happens, and Hellverine has been spotted for months.
Yep.
And go on.
well, yeah, he sort of gets almost tracked by the government. The government, I don't want to give away any story beats,
right?
But it's sort of, it's this interesting, and this is really, again, is sort of a testament to how well written the book is. You almost have to backtrack because, you hear how Hellverine was sort of created and what's going on behind the scenes, and then the government steps in. They've spotted Hellverine, and you almost have to backtrack because things aren't matching up in what they're saying versus what's been read, and that's 100% on purpose. And I think it's really, really well done. The other thing I wanted to bring up was, and this ties back to, I think, really why I really liked how this is written, is because you hear you see Percy using a lot of narration. Like, there's a lot of narration over the book, right. A lot of third person sort of outside perspective narration, almost like somebody is sort of telling an old story, And I think that really helps to sort of solidify the mysticism and the mystery and sort of the excitement behind how the book is, because it's written in such a way that you're like, okay, this is like an old folktale kind of a thing, somebody's telling it. And I really liked that. That really stood out to me. Because that's just not something that you see done a lot, especially with narration in that kind of a style.
I'm going to say this too. One of the things that, and it's not really a spoiler per se, but there's no real motivation for the villains, except for one. And that's the main arching villain. That's not real. Well, it's obvious, but still, it's very subtle. The main monsters that we see, they're just, here you go, boom, and they take off, and they don't delve into those characters at all because there's no need to. But like I said, it's the main focus is Wolverine's perspective of things. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, they sort of. I actually didn't read the original Wolverine tie-in that introduced Hellverine. Okay. So I don't know what all was and was not set up in that book. But my perspective was, and again, I'm not going to spoil anything, but they really build it up to make you think that this is Wolverine.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, things happen, the story happens, and you find out it's not it's not what it seems.
Right.
And I think that was, again, really a testament to Percy's writing in this book.
If you've read the original story, they delve more into the demon than anything. So, and this is all from the, previous storyline. So I'm not giving any spoilers of what is in control and what's going on with Hellverine.
Right.
So, but damn, best read. Also, I'm going to point out, this is a book that has multiple covers.
Yes.
There is a Mark Texeira cover, which is gorgeous. But the store here didn't get one. It was, if you don't know who Mark is, he was the guy who did the Johnny Ketch, Ghost Rider, the second Ghost Rider. He started off the book as the inker and did some incredible artwork. And it's just so much fun. Again, this here, I got to tell you, is the foil cover. I don't think you can see it so well. Tommy should post a picture here later on behind us of it. Amazing. I collect. Everybody, likes to collect comics for certain things. I like foil covers. So when something new comes out, I get the foil cover here.
Yep.
So, and this is one nice one. So it's one of the nicer ones out there. But I did like the Venom cover.
Oh yeah,
from weeks ago.
A couple weeks. The Venom. I don't remember what this book was called now, but super sick Venom cover there too.
Yeah, it's all gold and the tongue coming out. Oh, it's so nice.
The foil covers have been really, really good lately from Marvel.
Yes.
DC, I think can step up their game a little bit, but Marvel,
they can. Yeah.
Marvel's had some really killer foils lately.
Yeah, because the colors just pop.
Yeah.
it just blends in together.
And I think one thing to add to that is, Marvel, when Marvel is a foil cover, it's usually a new cover.
Yes.
When DC does a foil, it's usually they'll take the cover A and they'll just foil it. Right. Which, if the cover A is cool, right, there's not necessarily a problem with that. I just think, they could be a little more creative.
Right.
But enough on that.
Well, yes. I mean, They did the Superman event, House of Brainiac foil covers. Again, that would be up there in the top weekly book if Williamson came out with an issue this week. Again, I am loving the hell out of his Superman's House of Brainiac. So fun.
See, Mr. Williamson, you have another fan. I mean, we're all fans. You have a fan.
I had no clue of your writing until this, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is so good."
Yeah.
But again, though, there is a crossover with in the Green Lantern that is a must read because it's a little humorous and a lot of fun, and that's what comics are meant to be. I don't like heavy comics. I like them to be fun. And they have Guy Gardner with Lobo. It's actually Zarian who he mistakens to be Lobo. And the hilarity ensues. It's just brilliant. So much fun.
Yeah, that was, if you're wondering what issue that takes place in, that is in the latest issue of Green Lantern. Which Green Lantern already, if you're not reading Green Lantern, I'd recommend it. Jeremy Adams is another great writer.
Here's the kicker. It ties in, it gives you a little remembrance of the Lobo versus Guy Gardner fight in Justice League way back when. And to bring us the art is, again, Kevin McGuire. Kevin, again, your artwork is still amazing. Still, you've not lost a beat. Actually, you've improved. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I that's another thing. I also really like it how DC is starting to incorporate more sort of side stories at the end. Sure, it might, it might be not something everyone's interested in, but I think it's a fun opportunity to give a little bit more substance to, a $4.99 comic than just your 20-page story. But that's just a personal thing. It's not everybody's thing. But, man, some great stuff coming out of Marvel this week. Even DC. Well, Green Lantern was, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. But, man, Marvel has been hitting it heavy these past few weeks. Yeah. We had Doom a couple weeks ago. Doom. We have Hellverine. We're going to pivot to Doom here for a sec.
Doom was so good. Hickman, amazing. And you know what? If you're just a collector to collect, get it. It's a hot comic. It's a hot issue right now.
Yep.
It's just selling across the board. So if you can go to your local comic shop, if it's not Most Wanted, you might be able to get a copy still for cover. It's still, it's Hickman at his best.
And I'm a huge Hickman fan.
Yes.
So, some people like to rag on him, but come on, guys. When you get stuff like Doom, which is some of the best stuff out of Marvel, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no reason to not trust Jonathan Hickman with anything.
We're going to do a side tangent here. Hickman offered to write Legion of Superheroes, from DC, but instead brought the plot on over to the X-Men. Now, I part of me now wanted to know, because it would have fit to me much better Legion of Superheroes than it would have the X-Men.
Mm-hmm, I remember
that. Oh my God, it was yes.
And I think that's something I think we both agree on, is the Legion of Superheroes are criminally underused.
Exactly.
They're nowhere to be found. They're now, from a retail perspective, their comics end up in the dollar bin every day, but it's some great stuff.
Yeah. Some of the best comics out there,
and some of the cool and some really cool, more original future-based characters. It's just, the Legion of Superheroes, again, criminally underused, but that's another side thing.
Well, when I was Tommy's age, the comic that dragged me over to DC was actually Legion of Superheroes, because, sometimes we all follow an artist. You're like, oh my God. And it was Pat Broderick. Pat Broderick is still by far one of my favorite artists. He's doing new stuff still today. And he's one of the nicest guys. If you go to see him at a convention, talk to him. One of the greatest guys out there. And he did Legion of Superheroes. And then this guy named Keith Giffen just tried to do, was doing the Legion superhero artwork. I was like, who's this bozo? Well, then as time went on, his stuff just got better and better and better. And it was just amazing what he was doing with comics. And as we know, the late, great Keith has done astounding, amazing work for,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we're doing a Family Guy tangent here. Sorry about
that.
No.
It's perfectly fine. I think you said it well. I don't really have anything to add to that. The tangents are part of what make the discussions fun. So let's move over to the Ultimates now.
One more thing. Can I say one thing about this?
Go ahead.
This is probably of the new revamp of the X-Men. This is probably the first series to come out. Wouldn't you think?
Like that officially takes place within the revamped X-Men?
Yes.
Probably, I guess, with Wolf. Yeah, I can see that.
Marvel's not really counting it, but it's, I think
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. I think that's an interesting thing to bring up that you mentioned, and I guess so. I didn't really think about that, but yeah, man. X-Men is going to be another big thing to talk about when that comes out. But man, let's move over to the Ultimates.
Yes.
It's been 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, for those of you who maybe live under a rock, I'll give a very brief rundown. Late last year, I want to say maybe November, Jonathan Hickman launched a 4-issue mini sort of prelude called Ultimate Invasion. And Ultimate Invasion was sort of the build-up to their revamping of the Ultimate Universe in Marvel Comics. There was also a one-shot Ultimate Universe that came after that, but it really launched officially with Ultimate Spider-Man in January. And that book took everyone by surprise. For those still wondering, it is still on eBay, first print, going for about $80 to $90 raw.
I saw my copy last night.
Personally, I did not, you can go back and watch, the episodes from a few months ago. I did not think it would last as long, but some people, I can be wrong. We can all be wrong. Then followed up next month by Ultimate Black Panther, which also, if you're wondering, is going for eBay right now, still around $20 to $30. So a little bit of a drop, but still pretty good for a book to come out, in February. And then in March, Ultimate X-Men, which is sort of their third flagship title that they released under the new Ultimate Universe. And that one, if you're wondering, is now retailing on eBay for about $8 to $9. So quite a heavy drop, a heavy decline, and I think it's interesting to talk about why, and I think there's a lot of reasons for it. But I think we're just going to do a where are we now kind of a thing,
Right.
6 months later, how are things faring? And maybe what's the cause for some of these price declines and sort of lack of drop in popularity, I think.
Well, let's talk about the X-Men first, because that's the one that is probably, at least for this store, the least popular one.
Yeah.
I like it. It's the Ultimate Universe. The Ultimate Universe is to shake things up and give us a new take on comics. If they come out with new X-Men every 2 to 3 years, and so Ultimate X-Men is giving us an all new, different look, a different perspective, and somebody from a different culture. People are like, don't like Peach's work, but again, it has that manga style, and it's a different culture than American, because it dealt with one of the heaviest topics that here in the United States that we deal with, because we don't really talk about suicide. And it's a really heavy topic. We don't talk about death here. We kind of avoid it, like in our TV shows and all that. Oh yeah, boom, Tommy's dead, whatever. And then guess what? He's forgotten about down the line in a series. Now this death is a very important role within her books, and I really like it. And I enjoy the new X-Men. The book that I dislike the least, which could have done some amazing Afrofuturism, is Black Panther. It's the same old. It's just like me reading regular Marvel 616 universe Black Panther, except for Killmonger's alive. Oh my God, big surprise, because he was such a popular character, but it wasn't unique enough. It's not unique at all. It doesn't have the
doesn't have the sauce,
Yeah, it doesn't have the hot sauce.
It doesn't have, I think.
It's mayo.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think, personally, X-Men, going back to it, because I think X-Men is probably the most interesting to want to talk about out of the three, just because of how different it really is compared to anything we've seen in X-Men, I think, ever. Just because, personally, my own opinion is that it's not really for me, right? There's nothing necessarily wrong. I don't have any problems with the story it's trying to tell, or with sort of the cultural influence that Peach has on this book and what she's doing with it. I don't have a problem with that. But I think one of the reasons why, of the three, it sort of is a little bit less popular is because it really doesn't feature any sort of A-list or mainstream X-Men characters. Now, at the moment,
that's the part that I enjoy.
Now it probably will.
Yeah.
There are editors and there are things that they probably require, so it probably will at some point. But
here, let's talk about some of the X-Men history, though. Armor has been around for a while.
That's true.
She years ago, Marvel had some animated series done of their characters. They did an animated Wolverine, an animated X-Men, and I think was it an Iron Man, maybe, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, we're talking like early, 2000 kind of a thing.
Yeah. And the Wolverine was okay. He was a skinny guy as Wolverine, but it was good. It was fun. And the Wolverine was a little different, and there were two different types of Wolverines. The one in the X-Men was their standard bulky, kick-ass, Canadian. And Armor was in there. She was one of the main characters because it all took place in Japan, and she was this, X-Men that made an appearance. I think she's in the comics as well, but again, not a minor character. And Peach is like, this works well, because she's Japanese, and I'm gonna write a Japanese style,
right?
Comic. Again, it's a cultural difference, which isn't. I mean, if you don't like it, it's understandable and it's okay. But I'm enjoying the heck out of it. And I think she was also in Wolverine and the X-Men cartoon.
Probably.
Maybe.
You'd have to ask my brother. That was more his time.
Yeah.
For cartoons growing up than mine. But I think for me, one of the things is, and I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again, I think this would have worked much better as an Ultimate New Mutants book rather than Ultimate X-Men. And the reason why I say that is because
I can see that.
Right, we're featuring characters that aren't, they're not A-list X-Men characters. They've been around for a while, but a lot of people maybe don't know them, maybe aren't familiar with them. And that to me is sort of the purpose of New Mutants, is to give a spotlight and a feature to characters that have a place but maybe don't fit with the A-list team, or don't fit, right? And I think it would have worked better as that. And to me, one of the things that this reminds me of is back when the New 52 or a little around the time of the New 52, there was a Teen Titans book that came out, and it featured a whole new lineup of Teen Titans characters, and very different versions of them. There was Red Robin, Tim Drake. There was Hawk and Dove,
New 52,
Beast Boy, sort of a different kind of Wonder Girl, Donna Troy, and
Donna Troy.
Another guy that I can't remember the name of. But I remember reading it, and I remember really enjoying it. But it didn't last too long because it wasn't the Teen Titans that everybody knows.
Right.
And it is 100% okay to try new things. Like I really liked that Teen Titans run. It was actually drawn by, the art was done by Kenneth Rockford, who's a good friend of the store. But when a lot of people read Teen Titans, we also partially really like to see those characters that we're all familiar with. And I think the X-Men is by and large the same way. I mean, and whether that's because of, Claremont and John Byrne in the 80s or the cartoon in the 90s with, or Jim Lee, right? Whether it's because of these different factors, when people read the X-Men, they want to see Wolverine. They want to see Cyclops or Storm or Gambit or Rogue or any of these, or Xavier or Magneto. Yeah. And while I appreciate and do in many ways enjoy the story that Peach Momoko is telling, I have been reading it and will continue to read it. Part of me would much rather enjoys reading something like, the X-Men 97 tie-in right now. Because I like to read and see those classic X-Men characters. Right. But that's my thing.
No, you're right. I see where you're coming from on that. I really do. I'm just, when you were talking about like the John Byrne, Claremont, X-Men, that was my first X-Men comic that I picked up when I was Tommy's age, was X-Men 138. Yep. That was the aftermath of the Hellfire Club. And then I wandered into a used bookstore, not a comic shop, a used bookstore, and found all those, like 2 years worth of X-Men books for a dime a piece. So I bought all of them and read them, and I was like, oh my God, who's this character Wolverine? He's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, he was awesome, back then. And, he's a little oversaturated. But again, pointing back, he's really cool in this.
Yes,
he really is.
Yeah.
But, Spider-Man.
Spider-Man. I was just going to get to that,
Yeah, Spider-Man. At first, I was like, I remember coming in the store right when it was like told that, they're doing an Ultimates line. And Tommy, can you pull me Spider-Man?
Yep.
And he goes, yeah, no problem. We'll get you a copy. Got a copy, read it. I was like, wow, this is really good. But I originally, when they said, oh, he marries MJ. And I'm like, oh, I was like, I groaned because, again, that's so, to me, was predictable. Mm-hmm. I would have liked to have seen, since he never became Spider-Man as a teen, Gwen would have been alive, which she is, obviously in later issues we find out, and married to Harry. And I would have thought that he would have married her instead. And, but, that's here nor there. I'm not going to complain about that. Fanboy, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
I know fanboy rage here because it's, all this stuff is good stuff.
Right.
Except for Black Panther. Well, never mind. But but the current Spider-Man, I like some of the stuff they're dealing with because there's a villain that he winds up meeting. That was not the Crusher, the Shocker.
Mm-hmm.
And he appears in the latest issue again. And, I think he's going to be like a running butt joke.
Yeah.
For the Ultimate Universe.
And that kind of actually ties into one of my complaints, with the book is really that, this is a grown-up Peter, right? This is you hear it. Ultimate Spider-Man, not Ultimate Spider, but Amazing Spider-Man, right? As that's going, you hear it all the time. Let Peter grow up, let Peter be happy, let Peter mature, right? And this is that right here. This is Marvel saying, here you go, take and eat, right? And what I would have, and I love that, but what I really didn't, what I think they could have done better, and what I think Hickman, or maybe it's the editors, I don't know. But Peter is here, he's grown, he has kids, and he's still being really dumb. Yeah. And I know that, it's the Spider-Man gimmick, but that whole encounter with, like, the Shocker, he gets beat the first time, okay, and then he comes back and he gets beat the same way again. And I get it, it's a joke, it's a gag, but it's like, Peter's old now, he's a father. Right. He should have he should just be a little bit more, I don't know, smart, for lack of a better term. And I think it's, they want to have a grown-up Peter, an older Spider-Man, but they don't want to lose that, core character of Spider-Man, so they're afraid to move away from it.
One of the best parts, though, with the newest issue, too, is the Shocker that when he appears again, it's the Green Goblin that he goes up against.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of fun. And let's talk about the Green Goblin a bit. I like where he's kind of like the hero.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to keep him the hero. But, for some reason, 616, we got to make the Green Goblin evil again. Stop that.
ASM
Marvel,
50 right
stop
here.
That. Seriously.
Yeah. I didn't really, thinking about it, I didn't talk about ASM 50 in the last episode. Also because I didn't want to, because I was just so disappointed. I don't know how much we want to dive into that, but
it's not. Well, is it Zeb Wells writing, or who's?
I think it is. I should know this, but
I don't think it's the writer's fault.
It's not.
It's editor. It's the editor saying, "Oh, we got to do this. Got to shake things up," because it's also fandom. Guys, get over it. Let things change. Let things evolve. Right. Let things be different. Green Goblin, let him become a hero. Let Harvey become, redeem himself like he's been doing.
Right.
And why he becomes the Green Goblin again is... Yeah. It's understandable. It really is.
Right.
But
I think...
Why?
Because it's been out for a week. We'll talk about it, but...
Yeah, we don't have to give spoilers.
No, I won't go too heavy into spoilers, but one of the reasons, and I think, this is a minor spoiler, but the way they explain it is Norman Osborn sort of got, the sins of the Green Goblin and Norman were in the spear that Kraven and who's the other character?
The Goblin Queen.
Goblin Queen.
I like her.
Released. Yeah, and then it, imbued Norman again to save Peter, which I like that, and sort of taking it on himself, these aren't your sins to bear kind of a thing. Yeah. But they spent 50 issues building up his redemption, and just for it to be undone that easily doesn't sit right.
They spent a couple of years building him up. But the best part, though, out of that entire issue, with that, though, was Kraven going, I screwed up.
Yeah, the end. Yeah.
That was like, I made a mistake.
Yeah.
Crap.
Yeah.
I brought something back that we wanted to keep buried.
Yeah. But that was Spider-Man 50.
Yeah.
I don't...
Again, yes. But I like where the current Green Goblin is a good guy. Mm-hmm. He's on Iron Man level almost in
Ultimate Spider-Man.
Yeah.
We won't spoil it, but he gets some sort of Iron Man level technology.
Yeah.
To build his suit, which I thought was really cool. And I like that he's a hero, and I don't think, I don't know, I don't like that I don't like when they try and push things, especially, and this goes back to what you said with X-Men, how things should be different.
Right.
I don't like how they take these original ideas and they try and really push it as far towards the norm as they can.
They hammer it into...
Right.
Right.
But on the other end of that, there's a line, I think. And that's where you get Ultimate X-Men, where you get the question is begged, is this too far?
Right.
And it's just, on the very, left side, the end here, you have Black Panther that is very static. Yeah. And then kind of towards the middle, you have Spider-Man, and then all the way to the right is X-Men. And I don't think any of them have really found that balance, that perfect synergy,
You know what I would have liked to really see happen with the new universe is that... I'm sorry. Yes, I would like to see the new universe in the Ultimate Universe. For those who don't know a little history of it, Marvel did another experiment before Ultimate line years ago about, let's create new superheroes that everybody can jump on that isn't tied to Marvel continuity. And they created a whole new line called New Universe. Hickman, again, played with some of those characters in the Avengers storyline, such as Starbrand.
Yep.
And all. And, God, that was such a good storyline. Again, not enough praise for Hickman. We can go 2 days talking about him.
It's sort of the New Universe stuff is sort of like Milestone for DC, except DC incorporated like all of Milestone, or not all of it, but Static Shock, Icon Hardware, all these guys, they incorporated that into main DC continuity, whereas a lot of the New Universe stuff is left over there.
Yeah, it's still in its own little pocket universe, and I would like to have seen that incorporated instead of having all the Marvel heroes come up and because Reed Richards of the evil Reed Richards went in and got rid of most of the heroes, but it would have been great to see a mixture of these other heroes, other characters popping up in this universe. Like, there is a constant need for heroes at this time frame. I wish, again, like, if the writers would ever deal with regular Marvel, explain why there's all these avatars, God avatars, running around at the same time. Sorry.
No, I think it's interesting.
Sorry, Spider-Man is one of the books that I collect, and it's one of my favorite characters.
And one of the most, I think the character with the most titles weekly.
Yeah. Oh, God.
I mean, there's a lot of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
There's Spectacular Spider-Man. There's regular Spider-Man. At one point, there was Spider-Man, like just Spider-Man. There's the symbiote Spider-Man. There's Spider-Punk, Spider-Boy, Spider-Woman.
I like Spider-Woman, hands down. One of the funnest comics, again, like this, that Marvel is publishing. I think his name is Fox. They're doing some good work. Yeah. Really good work on that book. And the issue is Spider-Boy. I was like, oh my gosh. This is so new and refreshing. Right. And that's how comics should be. They shouldn't be retreading the same thing over and over and over. And I'm pointing to this book again because it does the exact same thing. Yeah. It's fun. It's not a retread, really, per se. No. They're experimenting with different grounds and doing different things. Yeah. So.
And real quick, as you're talking about that, I remembered, one of the things that gave me hope, leading up to ASM 50, one of the things that kind of gave me hope that they weren't going to turn Norman back to the Green Goblin was they released a book called Spider-Man, and it's still going right now, Shadows of the Green Goblin. Yeah. And I thought myself, I was like, okay, this must be like to feed the hungry fans. Right. But no, I guess not. But well, for those who are wanting to jump on the Ultimate Universe, good luck. They're hard to find. You can get one of the millionth printings that are probably scattered around.
Yeah.
But the next big chapter in it, I think it comes out either next month or this month. I'm not 100% sure, but that is the Ultimates #1 that drops this summer. The next chapter in the story. So check that out.
I'm curious if that's going to be as heavy as the original storyline that they did 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was a while ago now.
Yeah, I mean, Mark Millar did a really good story.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was really, really heavy, but very dark. And again, I like dark comics, but I also like comics that are fun and lighthearted. Bring back Blue Devil.
Yeah, bring back Blue Devil.
We were talking about that yesterday, folks. So
yeah. But no, one of the things I'm looking forward to about it, and this was sort of, how Peter got his powers in the Ultimate Universe by Iron Man. He sort of popped up in this hologram with this little orb that had the spider in it. But who else did that happen to? Who else did Iron Man approach? And I don't think we've really seen anybody else yet, and I'm hoping that we really get to see some more different takes on some of these characters.
Right. I do like, one of the things I do like from Black Panther, I have to give credit, is the Kenosha army.
Mm-hmm.
The God is just, with this army trying to...
Yeah.
And cult. That is fun. I do like that. But again... I don't know.
I'm a Moon Knight fan, so I like seeing Ultimate, evil Moon Knight. I think that's cool.
Yes, I like that too.
But, other than that, for Black Panther, it's just, T'Chaka dies. Yeah. T'Challa becomes the Black Panther. Storm's there, Killmonger's there, whatever. Shuri, all these characters are still here. It's pretty much the same old, just like Susser said. And I don't know. I would have liked, and we've talked about this, but I would have liked to see, them just start out. Like, Wakanda is just a part of everything. Like, Wakanda is, there's vibranium, everything, and Wakanda's a part of the world, right? They're not, I would have liked to see that. I think that, that's a pretty easy thing to do to make it different.
But instead of making them as hidden, whatever, in this universe... They should have made him like, oh my God, they run half the continent of Africa.
Right.
Would have been nice. Not instead of a small country, but we've absorbed and all the other countries accepted us, and we are here to protect the people.
Yeah.
And that would have been so cool. But again, they're trying to do the Game of Thrones, intrigue and political structure and all that, and it just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sorry, folks, you can't be Game of Thrones. Actually, what was the show that did it before Game of Thrones and did it better? I'm drawing a blank. Babylon 5 did the political storyline better.
Yeah.
And so on, but that's here nor there.
Yeah. Well, we talked Ultimate stuff. I guess, I always give the upcoming section, but Susser, is there anything coming out that you are particularly excited for?
Well, I'm excited. I'm going to pull out a book here. It's written by T. Aaron Sisko. It's Nowhere Sleeping, and it's about all these little vignette stories that are all tied together, very similar to Black Mirror.
Mm-hmm.
He's a local author and all-around good guy. Went to a reading the other night, and it was amazing. So I recommend, just go to Amazon and look up Nowhere Sleeping by T. Aaron Sisko. This is one of his newest novels.
Mm-hmm.
So check it out. It's about $10. Pretty easy read and all. Also, I'm looking forward to more Creature of the Black Lagoon.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun, a lot of horror. The new Turtles.
Yep. That's July, I think.
I was one of the people that was on the original bandwagon with Turtles, and I had a first printing #1 because I wandered in the store and going, wow, magazine size, that looks cool. And I'm looking forward to Savage Sword of Conan.
The magazine?
The magazine. I wish it was an ongoing, but you're right, it was only six issues.
I think so.
And I would like to see something like that as an ongoing thing because as early childhood, I remember reading those old horror magazines that were black and white, and the art style so much different there because of its black and white. And this art was larger to see, and I just like magazine style. I wish that I know a few books are coming out magazine style, and I do get them, but Conan is probably the best.
Yeah, Marvel doesn't really do it much. DC I don't think really does it at all, outside of maybe a black label here or there.
Yeah.
But it's Conan. Well, I think DC on occasion releases Mad still,
Right.
in magazine style.
Right.
But other than that, another criminally underused format.
Yeah, I think a lot of collectors want comic size because it's easier. But maybe that's a topic for down the line. But or I can bring my collection of magazine style size books. One was Southern Nights. Mm-hmm. It was called The Crusaders. Jackson Geist got his start in that book. He was called he was Butch then. And did the first 2 issues and went from Crusaders, but the Crusaders name was already used, so they had to call themselves the Southern Knights.
Yeah.
It was during the comic book glut of the 80s, the black and white glut, for those who know a little of their comic book history.
And some of the coolest horror stories come out of like Creepy and Eerie.
Yeah, oh my god.
Those are incredible magazines.
The new the 50s horror line.
DC?
Yes.
Yeah.
Where they're doing new books.
Yep.
I'm all excited about that. That will be hot collectibles.
Yep. I think that comes out in July. Under Oni Press is relaunching the EC stuff. I cannot for the life of me remember what the title of it is called, and that's my bad. But EC starts again in July. That's going to be a big deal. That reminds me, I got to order a few more of those.
Yeah.
But Seuser, thanks for coming on.
No problem.
Absolutely.
Maybe I'll come back and do another review. I've got that Mark Nelson Thunder Hunters. If you don't remember Mark Nelson, he did the first Aliens appearance in comics. Mm-hmm. He is just an amazing artist. And he did a kind of more like a Zoop, kind of like a Kickstarter on the book, and did a remark. His remarks are amazing. But again, it's a wonderful story, something unique and different, and the artwork is just beautiful to behold. And it's out there, and maybe I'll do a review on that.
Yeah,
and come up with give you the information where you can order this too.
Yeah,
it's still available.
We can have you back, do another discussion. We can talk about that. Yeah. But thanks for coming on.
All right,
we'll see you next time. Have a good one. Thank you.
No problem.
Well, it looks like you and the Seuser had a lot to talk about today.
Yeah, it went off on some really fun tangents, but that's what's great about discussion. You get caught up in other things, side topics, but hey, thank you to the Seuser for coming on and talking with us. I love it. We know the fans love it, and we will 100% have them back.
Well, I will say this. I enjoyed Hellverine, but I don't think as much as the Seuser did.
No, the Seuser loved Hellverine, and it was a great book.
It was a good read. I had no problem with it. The Seuser loved it. That's great. Percy, good job, man. Shout out, man. Seuser,
I do think we need to reiterate that, thank you, Benjamin Percy, because it was a great book.
It was a good book. Percy was on it, and Percy, once again, quality job. Good job. What can you say? We've got quality people in Minnesota. What can you say? Another great talent. And of course, we have the prelude to the Turtles coming out, right?
Yeah. Well, let's put a pause there. Let's not jump ahead let's not get ahead of ourselves, because we have yet to talk about what's coming out this week. And I guess since you brought it up, we'll start with TMNT Alpha number 1.
Start with TMT Alpha.
There's a few books coming out this week that are big, and this is definitely one of them. This is the prelude to the big number 1.
Not to be confused. It's not the number 1. It's just the prelude. So don't.
Yep,
but it's still going to be big. I think
it's still going to be a big one. Don't get it confused. But if you're looking to really jump onto Turtles, definitely pick this book up, because it will lead you into it. Also coming out this week, the one that Mafu is probably most excited for.
The Mighty Mafu.
Scarlet number 1, the new installment in the Energon universe. Duke and Cobra Commander wrapped up last month, and they're now going to be launching their next 2 G.I. Joe titles, which is Scarlet and Destro. Destro will be launching late this month, and Scarlet will be this week, so look out for that one.
Once again, Image getting it done with another banger, another tie into G.I. Joe. People are loving it. Transformers and G.I. Joe.
The other book I want to talk about, we talked about it with the Seuser, and I got confirmation. Ultimates number 1. I mentioned that I didn't know when it was coming out. Well, as it turns out, it comes out this week. We talked about the interview. Not a lot more needs to be said about it. Check it out. It's going to be big. I think we're all looking forward to that one here. So Ultimates number 1 comes out. Also, a smaller book, but I'm just personally looking forward to it. My Adventures with Superman number 1, the tie-in to the TV show. Not everybody liked that show. I personally did. I'm enjoying the second season so far, and so we will see how the tie-in goes.
I think it's been okay, and I think the comic book will just reflect the show. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. And sometimes the tie-in, like the show tie-ins, sometimes it's clear like the writer either didn't watch it or they just didn't care. Sometimes the show tie-ins don't always work, and I really hope that this is not one of those cases.
You'll be on it next week.
I will be on it. We will be talking about that next week, with potentially a My Adventures with Superman discussion, because I think I want to give some opinions on that show.
Yeah, and I think it's been good, just like X-Men 97 was good. Yeah. I think we're 2 for 2 on that. But yeah, all right. Thank you, Susan, for coming in and talking. Again, mark your calendars. July 27th, the Honky Tonk Man is coming. We're going to have a big sale coming up for a summer meltdown, so make sure you stay tuned for more deets coming on that next week. And other than that, that's it for this week, folks. We're going to be back in business next week.
Yep.
And so get ready for another great week.